All right, hello everyone. It is 12:30, and so we're going to get started with today's Lunch and Learn with the City Forest Officer. Again, I'm Rachel Mallerich, the City Forest Officer for the City of LA, and today we're going to be talking about Treekeeper 8. I see folks trickling in. I'll give them a moment to get with us. Really excited to be with you all. We've had a couple recent sessions talking about current project partners. We had Google, then we met last time with our California Climate Action Corps Fellows, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the city's Treekeeper system. And I'm doing this session because I've gotten some requests from folks for different types of information, and I realized that it'd be useful to go back over the tool and take a look at it together. So again, a reminder that this time is intended to talk through our pillars of urban forest management, tree preservation, maintenance, planting, as well as engagement. And today I really see us focusing on maintenance. One of the tools for maintenance for the city is going to be using the Treekeeper tool to be able to track data on our trees and track work on our trees and really see what we have, what we're managing as a whole. As well as engagement, because today we want to show you a little bit about the tool. And I'm going to go ahead and post in the chat some links right now. So hopefully we can get those to come through. Perfect. I actually want to forward to this. So one of the very first link in the chat that I provided is the YouTube recording from our Growing Vibrant LA Communities Inventory into Action event in September. That was our first Growing Vibrant LA Communities event co-hosted by Streets LA and City Plants and a number of our partners. And within that session and within that YouTube link, there are two really robust presentations on the inventory project from our Streets LA side and from Rick and Park side. So I really recommend that if you want to dive deeper into the tool and more into the details of that project, that you can go back and take a look at that video on YouTube. We also have two links there for our Streets LA website to be able to track the progress on the street tree inventory specifically. We're having inventory reports developed by Davie Resource Group as they complete a neighborhood council area. So when they finish inventorying the street trees in your area, they're putting together this one pager on some of the stats in your area, and you can I have the link there for you to register to be notified when your neighborhood council report has been posted. And then also just so you can go and look at the current reports that are there. And those are a nice summary of those neighborhood councils. And then the last link there is the Treekeeper 8 homepage. So if you want to play along today, I know some folks may be joining by phone, and today's session is going to be a little bit more on the visual side. So you may need to just go back and look at the recording because I'm going to be mentioning them, clicking different places. But definitely if you want to jump onto the Treekeeper 8 tool and play along, feel free to do so, or save the link for your future reference. So again, we have a longer session on the inventory itself that we did back in September. Today, we're just going to refresh ourselves in a quick lunch and learn on the Treekeeper tool. I shared last time that one way that we might use the tool is if you're looking for one of the current trees that is in bloom, looking pretty stunning all over the city right now, our pink trumpet or a Androanthus heptaphyllus tree, that there are two websites here. The Select Tree website, which is the Urban Forest Ecosystems Institute website, where you can get tons of details about the tree. If you want to learn more about what conditions the species do well in, what types of pest and disease problems they might have and other characteristics, this is a really wonderful website. And that's the screenshot I have here is from that website. And then in the bottom right, I have a map of the currently inventoried pink trumpet trees in the street tree inventory. So again, part of the reason I wanted to move forward with this is that I've been getting some questions. And so I have this as kind of a placeholder. We're going to see if I can share my screen successfully. Sometimes the system is a little bit slow. And so if it's slow in loading, we'll come back to this slide, but I'm going to see if I can I'm going to switch the screens and hopefully get up for you all the Treekeeper website. There we go. So here we have the website. When you get there, you have up in here, you can see I've entered as a guest, so I'm not logged into the system. This is how any member of the public can look at the trees within the Treekeeper 8 system. On the left-hand side here, we have the benefits that are being provided by the street sites that are currently showing up on the map. So a couple things I want to note for us. One is right here, we have a number of icons that we can click on. I'm going to go to layers because here you can pick what you're looking at. Do you want to look at our street tree sites? Do you want to look at our park tree sites? You can select or deselect those here. And then the part I really want to get it into is the search tool. And so I've actually already opened up a search. Here you can do it by site, and you can click on site and you can put in a specific address. You can put in geo coordinates if you have them, or you can put in your council district or neighborhood council. Those are some items that you have for site. I'm gonna go ahead and scroll down, or you can click on species. And so within species, you can put in the tree name or size. You can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and click over to this page where I have a search already done. So the search I did here was for that pink trumpet tree, the visual that I showed you on the previous slide. So we've got the pink trumpet tree. I'm going to close this side panel to give myself a little more space. And what I've done here is I've clicked on this bottom component over here on the bottom right-hand corner. You can take a look at, right now we're looking at, well, actually I'll do two things. One is got a lot of trees. Some are gray, some are green, some are yellow. So I'm going to go to my layers tool, and you can see that the list got a little bit longer here. We've got selected, and then the street and park sites still clicked on. So I'm going to click off of street sites. I'm going to click off of park sites so that I only have my selected trees. So the trees on the map now are just the ones I searched for, just the pink trumpet trees, because then it's a little bit easier to look at. And I'm going to go ahead to go to the bottom and open up and see what data is available on those trees. Now you can click on specific trees, and that's part of what Greg Spots shared in his presentation in our September component, clicking on each of these triangles and getting the data on those specific trees. But I want to share a little bit about this tool down here. And so in this tool, we have the opportunity to look at a spreadsheet, so to speak, of the trees on the map. And we can, if we click on the little hamburger icon over here in the corner, we can pick what data we're looking at. So I'm going to scroll down to the columns, and I see that we've got several things that have been selected and some that have not. So I don't really care about the site ID right now. I'm going to say that I do care about the latitude and longitude, just for fun. And I've got the address that's available and the DBH. You know what, let's throw in the council district too. So we have those elements. So then I'm able to look over here and see all that data that's available on those trees, just the data that I want. And you can actually move these around. You can move the columns so that they're in an order that makes more sense to you. And you can also order them. You can sort them. You're saying, I want to do the streets in order of ascending or descending order. You can go ahead and do that and have the, now I'm going to break it because I clicked on something that was a little more complicated, but no, it just slows down. So we've got the ability to look at that data. And the other component that I wanted to point out is that you can export that data. Right here, we have a couple different options. You can pick, do you want it as a PDF? You can have it Excel or CSV. And you can either say, you know what, I got really clear. And actually, let's just say that you're doing a project and you're saying, I don't know why Rachel would pick latitude and longitude. I don't want that. I just want my council district and the addresses and the species themselves, because then I can go ahead and find these trees. You can go ahead then and say, I want to export just the visible data. And when you're doing the visible data, it's just the columns you picked, the address, the street, side, species, DBH, and council district in this case. If you click export all data, then all of these column options that we had, including XY coordinates, latitude, longitude, neighborhood council, whether or not quality control or QC has been completed. If you select export all data as Excel, it will gather all the data on the sites that you have. And I'll add one other component. I did an export of some vacant sites for one of our partners, and found that she's like, you only sent me 10,000 sites. And I see that there's, more than 10,000 vacant sites in the city. Why did I only get 10,000? And I want to just note down here at the bottom of the page, we realized we could either say 10,000 here on this visible screen that I can scroll down through. These are 10,000 different things, or it's not 10,000 because we don't have 10,000, but if we had that many data points, it would only show me 10,000, or you can select all. And that makes it a little bit easier if you're exporting the visible data. You want to be able to, you would want to select all if you have more than 10,000 sites. Just a tip, as I downloaded one and then went, wait a minute, we're missing some of the data here. So that's a little bit about how the tool functions and how you can gather some of that data. Again, it's really easy to just go ahead and search for what you're searching for, whether it's vacant sites in your community or a specific tree species that you want to go take a look at. You're able to search, you can export whatever data is useful to you, and then play around with it. I think one other thing I'll show now that I've done a search and we've kind of looked at some of the ways that you can export that data or use that data is also to look at the map tools. So I also have the option to draw a rectangle or a polygon to select or deselect. So let's just say that I wanted to only look at pink trumpet trees within kind of this Harbor Gateway, South LA area. Let's see if it'll let me do it. I could go ahead and select the area here. There we go. And it would then narrow down here from over 3,000 trees that have been selected to a smaller number. And it's taking a moment to load, but that's the option you also have, is to select by a geographic area within those map tools if you wanted to narrow your search that way. Or the ever popular clear map selection. So I can say, let's start over. Let's remove the ones, and you can see down here that the total trees that I have now has gone to 0 because I erased my map selection. And I can go back to my layers and say, okay, I want to see the street sites again, and that will repopulate. So that's a little bit about the tool. And again, I've shared in the link, and hopefully it's coming through as clear as it's loading on my screen. So my apologies if it isn't. I think my hope would be that Melinda would tell me if you guys have just been staring at a loading screen this whole time. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of our Q&A. So I have here a question about another one of the growing vibrant LA communities. And so I'm transitioning to the Q&A. So if you have a question about what I've just covered, feel free to pop it in the Q&A and I will go ahead. If it's relevant to this topic, I'll read it aloud. I'm not going to talk specifically too much about the inventory project as a whole. I think that that'd be a far better topic for potentially to have UFD come on and talk about the progress on the project, or Rec and Parks. So we've got one question about the Growing Vibrant LA Communities Urban Tree Equity Program. And I can look into making sure that that recording is available. I do a follow-up blog on the Board of Public Works website after these Lunch and Learn events. And so any of the links that I share here today will also be in that blog post. So if you don't have a chance to save that chat, or if there's another resource that comes up, I tend to try and put it there so it's available to others. So we'll look at getting the link for the Growing Vibrant LA Communities Urban Tree Equity recording. There's a question, is this Treekeeper website available to the public? So everything I've just shown you is totally available online for you right now. You can see in my upper right hand corner of my screen, it's welcome guest. This is not, I haven't logged into some specific system that is inaccessible to the public. And again, that last link, I'll see if I can repost, do a quick copy and paste again in case you joined us late, but I'll add again into the chat those four links that I shared at the beginning. I'll see if I can reshare them for you all. So the last link on those 4 links is the laparks.ca, treekeepersoftware.com. So that website is the one where you can go ahead and do all of the fun clicking around that I've just done looking at trees on our Treekeeper website. We have a question about how Treekeeper 8 will inform maintenance schedules, such as trimming cycles. That's a great question. And I actually want to just point out here that there are some gray triangles on the map. And some of the gray triangles are sites that our Davie Resource Group team has inventoried and have not yet gone through that final check, through that QC quality control check before they finalize those sites. But then you have some other ones in kind of scattered about, and that's because Urban Forestry Division is now using this tool to track some of their work on trees. And so they're starting to input trees that aren't yet in the inventory. Davie will still be checking those sites. That'll be part of the formal inventory process. But the team is starting to use Davie Treekeeper to track some of the work on the sites. And so when it comes to informing maintenance schedules, I think we're still waiting to get kind of the full data set, because then we'll be able to look at all of our trees and say, okay, what do we have? What condition are they in? What do we anticipate in a number of different factors? We can take that data and explore it together a little bit further when we have the full picture of the whole city. We're just now, again, onboarding a new tool for both you all to be looking at, and then the work order and work management components that are the login component for the city team. So the Urban Forestry Division and Rec and Parks Division are using this also as a management tool. Does your project include inventory from other city agencies such as LADWP? Right now, we have, again, our street tree sites, and we also have our park tree sites that are being inventoried for this public facing inventory. And I actually can go in and click on, see if I can get the park sites to load up for you all. So you can also, actually, it might take a moment, so we'll let that load. I don't have data from LADWP. I'm assuming that you're thinking about utility line spaces that they manage. I don't have those in the inventory at this point. We're focused on the street and park trees at this moment. Next question: why do the inspectors count private trees as city trees? I would have to see the specific example, but by and large, the instructions that have been given to Davie have them only inventorying what we consider to be public right-of-way trees. There are some gray areas where it's a little harder to tell whether a tree is in the public right-of-way or on private property, and they work directly with Urban Forestry Division to answer those questions. Next question: is the city using the TK8 total yearly eco benefits to consider development canopy loss mitigation in regards to replacement trees? So I'm going to go ahead and pull up that tree benefits component for us. So you can see here on the side, our street trees right now, we have over 190,000 calculated trees providing total yearly eco benefits. And that's, again, one of the great things about this tool. And that actually, the tree benefits component is what pops up first when you open the website. That's going to be there hanging out on the side, showing you how much we're saving in terms of these eco benefits. And the question as I read it is, are we considering using these eco benefits as part of the conversation around replacing canopy loss when trees have to be removed? And I don't know that we'll be using this specifically. It definitely helps us think about the value of our urban forest and our need to invest in those 4 pillars of urban forest management. We need to have a good maintenance component. We need to have a good tree preservation plan, and we need to be planting in order to continue to receive these and more benefits from our trees. But how we're going to actually look at replacement methodologies, we're still discussing, and we'll be using industry standards like the plant appraisal guide and other things like that. But we definitely have heard from the public that there's an interest to make sure that we're communicating those values and benefits that are lost when we have trees removed. The next question is, what is the percentage of trees in LA inventoried, and when will it be complete? That is an excellent question, and one that I'm not really, I think, at a point where I can answer. We do have 21 of the neighborhood councils that have completed inventories with reports on the Streets LA website, which again is in one of those links in the chat, are those neighborhood council reports. And you can see on the map, we've got large sections of the city that have been completed, and actually this bottom portion has also been completed. It's just taking a little bit to load on my computer. And I know that the Davie team has continued to staff up. We had some slowdown with COVID and obviously wanting to keep staff safe and keep the public safe. They were able to continue inventorying during the COVID, the height of COVID, but I know have been ramping up their staffing now, but I don't currently have a projected end date. I have to say, this has been such a long time coming. It's so exciting to see it continue to get populated week to week. Our median trees under Parks and Recreation. By and large, our landscape median islands are managed by the Urban Forestry Division. That's my understanding. I know that there's some unique cases where there are some medians, I think, that may have maybe seen as a park site, but by and large, our landscape median islands are managed by our Urban Forestry Division. Next question is, besides the data being provided, would photos be available of the trees in the area in the Treekeeper website? So I'm going to attempt, let's see if we can do it, and bear with me. We're going to zoom in a little bit, and I actually think I'll go over to this screen. So I'm going to zoom in and get us close enough to hopefully select one tree location so you can see what's there. I didn't include that because, as I said, that's something that you can see on the video from the Growing Vibrant LA Communities, but let's get in close. I'm going to let that load. I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these trees. I'm going to get a little bit closer so that sometimes it'll show a group, but I'm going to go ahead and pick this one here. So when I click on a specific site, there is a Google Map image that comes up. That is it's just part of the software. Is we have the Google Map imagery, and then we also have the Google Street View of the tree itself. And then you can see the other information on the site, again, XY coordinates, site ID, neighborhood council, council district, and that's on the site tab, the address. And then on the species tab, you have the tree type and the DBH for that tree. But so the photo that's provided is from Google. Although I do believe that staff have the ability to upload photos when they do work on the trees. I'm not sure that that shows up on the public site. That'd be a good question for Davie or UFD. If LADWP trims a tree, do they enter this maintenance into the inventory? It'd be good to do so UFD does not do double duty trimming on a tree. That's an excellent suggestion. And again, we're at the very beginning of we're obviously making progress, and we've had about a year of the inventory moving forward. But how we incorporate that data from LADWP definitely would be something that we'll be looking at doing over time. If there's a good way to incorporate their maintenance activities, I think that's they're trimming for line clearance specifically, so they're going to the site and not looking at the entire pest disease structure. They're looking at following the ISA standards for line clearance procedures. But you're right, it would be helpful for UFD to know when that's happening. How is a street tree removal entered into the inventory? So again, I think we're in the early phases of using this tool, but that would be, the site would be changed at that point to, I think we have the option to put in a vacant site or a stump, although I do know that UFD is trying to do a good job of removing a tree and the stump whenever possible. But the site would be converted to a vacant site unless it's a site that is not in current compliance with our spacing guidelines. So for example, if this if the tree was within 2 feet of a driveway, for example, and not really an ideal location for a future tree, it wouldn't be converted to a vacant site. It would be removed from the system and made into, I believe, an obsolete site, or removed entirely. But that's part of what will be happening. Will trees that have not been planted but are in proposed projects by private developers, in-house city projects, and community groups be included in the future? Another excellent question. So that's one of the concerns is, we have tree planting that's happening in an ongoing fashion, and we want to make sure that the inventory is up to date, that it includes that information. And so City Plants and their partners with funding through LADWP are working on a bridge between a Treekeeper site for the City Plants partners to use for their work management that connects to the city system. So our vacant sites will be visible to them. And when they plant, they'll go through a review process. So we make sure the data really is clean and ready for our inventory site, but their planted locations will end up here. I have some thoughts about if there's ways to show trees that are kind of pending, the best way to handle that. And I think that's part of what this question is getting to is, there might be a group either in the city family or one of our external partners that's IDing a location for a project. Oh, these are some vacancies on this corridor that we want to plant. And we currently are planning for that process for tree planting has happened. Let's convert the vacant site to a planted site with the right species, with the date, with the partner who planted it, all that data. But how do we catch the data when that project is in process before the tree actually goes in the ground, but someone's thinking about it? And I'm actually really grateful for this tool and the tool that's being built for city plants, that bridged site, because that's been a problem in the past. In my previous work, I did work for a couple of the nonprofits, and we did have times where, because there wasn't a really good way to talk about it, we might be going after a permit for a site that another project was also looking at. And there was just no really easy way to share that information. And this tool eventually will, I think, be a good place for that. We're still working on kind of the details of what that looks operationally, so we get it right. But we're definitely aware that that's one of the problems we want the inventory to help solve. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. These are really fantastic, you guys. Once complete, how will the data be maintained? That's a great question. And I think that that's going to be part of what we elaborate on in the urban forest management plan. We're going to be detailing within there kind of what the plan is for upkeep of the inventory. I can tell you right now that this is, again, intended to be the work order and management system for the departments that are maintaining our trees, the urban forestry division within Streets LA and the forestry division within recreation and parks. So when they're going out to do work on different sites, they're updating the record when they're there to indicate the work done and do those things. But a more comprehensive, when do we redo the inventory? Is there a need to do that at some point in the future? That's going to be detailed in the urban forest management plan, and that will include a stakeholder process where people can give feedback on what they want. We know that this is more dynamic than the previous inventory we had. This is something that, again, you all can look at right now, that it has the ability to capture and help us track some data. But inventory maintenance will definitely be something we talk about in the future. Next question, is Davie Resource Group going to verify gray tree icons for private property native trees when UFD adds one? So just to clarify again, the gray sites on the map that we saw earlier, they fall into two categories. One is sites that Davie Resource Group has already inventoried and just hasn't done the final, this neighborhood council is complete. We're going to do a final quality control check and then deliver the data and the report to UFD. Or the other gray triangles are sites where UFD is using the system and just inputting the trees when they're doing work on that site. And I think that there's a number of areas in the valley where we see that quite a bit happening, which again, I think is really good. We want staff to be starting to use this tool and getting familiar with it. Those will be verified to be part of the neighborhood council inventory in those areas. But I want to clarify, part of this question asks about private property trees, and the trees being captured in this inventory at this point in time are our public right-of-way trees. So trees in the parkway space between the curb and the sidewalk that are in the public right-of-way, or trees in our park systems, not private property trees at this point in time. There is discussion about how we might use the tool in some other ways to solve some of the other urban forestry challenges that we're facing, but we are not currently inventorying private property trees. Another question about inventorying newly planted trees as well as existing, and I did share that hopefully semi-clearly, that we're working on building the system to be able to do that, to be able to incorporate that tree planting component, and definitely have ongoing conversations happening between Davie, city plans and UFD about how to do that and make sure that the data is up to date. Another question, this is a great one. I've used this, and my apologies, everyone. I've used the term DBH a couple times as one of the data points that we have available for our trees. And DBH is diameter at standard height, or the diameter of the tree at 4.5 feet. So when Davy Resource Group is going out, they're, getting the species identification, but they're also measuring what is the diameter at 4.5 feet on that tree. And that's the industry standard for how we measure that, the diameter of the trunk is at 4.5 feet. Does the inventory show vacancies of street trees? Yes, and we're at 1 o'clock, but I'm gonna just throw this in there as we close. If you go to species and you click vacant site, and because if you want to see street tree vacancies, it's vacant site, and you submit, you're gonna get all the vacancies across the city popping up for you. And I think I had a couple more questions we didn't get to. If possible, I'll go ahead and try and include answers to those in the blog. Thank you guys so much. Really fantastic questions today, and I hope you feel a little bit more familiar with the tool that we're using and a little bit more about how the project is moving forward. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the 24th. I had to think about what day it was. See you all on March 24th for the next Lunch and Learn.